white, the word donations on top, and it's plastic material that looks like kind of like a fence, and as you put the donations, and then it has a wooden base here where some of the money could be displayed as it falls. I rebuilt this character, which had a different head on before. Now it's got one of the foam heads, and I did some additional latex work on the neck, make it look pretty gross. I have to rebuild Winston. The Clinton mask, as well as the Winston mask, became very brittle and rigid. So I'm rebuilding the mechanism to handle a different character. It's going to be this mask overlaid with the eyes and mouth, and I've modified the neck to match, and I've painted the hands too. Winston, unfortunately, the mask became totally hardened, so I can't use this mask anymore. And the Clinton mask was damaged also. So I'm redoing Winston character to match a mask that we used before. It's that mask there. It's a different profile, so I'm redoing the mechanism that controls the mouth and the nose and the eyes, and I made a different latex neck, and painted the hands differently too, because now it's kind of a ghoul. And it's a different styrofoam cap to hold the latex head a little differently. I finished
the next show
the new
will
Winston
start
character.
in just a few minutes. If you so choose, you may provide a donation into one of 3 donation boxes located near the show fence. These donations help keep the show running. The caretakers thank you in advance for your generosity. While you're waiting, here is some background on the Jefferson Graveyard Show.
I redid the rat with a different motor system so that it's much faster. It's a servo, as you can see right here. And there's also a random timer circuit with a power relay, so that it goes randomly up and down in different motion. This is going to be placed on the roof next to the skeleton. I also added red LEDs in the eyes instead of the yellow ones, which I think looks a little creepier. I had to rebuild Ghoulies' face because this whole jaw area was missing. So this is from another mask that I cut and glued on there. Then I hand painted it to match his face. I added a disgusting boil to his head and repainted him and checked his mechanics. So it's kind of back to life. He's not perfect. He's still kind of decaying. The mask is going to have to be replaced soon. Every character now has a 1.5 inch offset so that it doesn't damage the grass. Hopefully the grass will be able to breathe. And I painted the bases with a green to match the grass. So all the characters are a little elevated and out of the water, hopefully, in the mud. I'm redoing the bat drop this year. Hopefully I'll get it to work. I'm not sure yet. I'm redoing, this is a different bat this year. It looks kind of more like a bat. The mechanism that holds the bat on the line is different. It's a lower resistance tube that I made, with little end cap pieces. The reset mechanism is going to be a magnet, which is on the back of the bat, and it's going to go to a reed switch to reset the controls. Prior to this, it was a switch, and I redesigned the mechanism that releases the fishing line. I don't have the fishing line holder on here anymore as a guide. It wasn't working right, so I made my own nylon guide that's centered right on the center line of the holding line over here. So hopefully we'll get this thing all to work. It's all different design, and I'm using a different holding wire too, which is a bigger diameter. So we'll see if the whole thing works in the end. One of the challenges about doing it in this new house is not being able to damage any of the walls or the wood, which is different than when it was in Naperville. So for instance, the bat drop, as you can see right here, is mounted on a table as opposed to being mounted on the frame of the window. And all it does is just touch the frame there and it sits on the carpet. So that's a technical challenge because it involves much more work keeping everything not damaged. Same thing with things like the red ghoul and so forth. Nothing is physically cooked to the house. I'm using the curtain rod and lead weight with string and so forth. So there's nothing mounted anywhere to the house, so nothing is being damaged in the process. This bat drop has proven to be very difficult to get to work, but I think I finally have it. As you can see, the mechanism is quite complex and involves a total different launch and return system that avoids the clogging that was happening. And it's interesting, there's a little tiny spider that lives on the bat, and he's making a web, and even though I've dropped him 10-15 times, he holds on and stays here. I don't know if you can see the spider's web here. Probably can't see it, but he's hiding right now, but it's kind of neat. I'm in the dining room right now, which has the flying ghost effect, and I just wanted to show a little bit about how it's designed. You could look here and you could see I have an induction motor going to a wheel, and it's on a spring-loaded mechanism, and it just goes to a circular wood platen where there is bushings on the bottom, and then there's two fiberglass rods. One rod goes to the ghost, and the other rod over here is a counterweight which offsets the weight of the ghost. And then the whole thing, it's got a fan to cool the motor, and the whole thing is on a hinge so that it rocks. As you can see right here, the whole thing rocks left to right, and there's a counter spring right over there. This is the black light that makes the ghost glow, and then the chandelier itself has a little hidden wire with a hook that goes across to a rocking mechanism, which is from a commercial staple gun, and it pulls back and forth. Has a tensioning spring right here, and there's some counterweights in the back of this to help compensate for the weight of it. I'll turn it on, you can see. All of these characters are audio-animatronic, which means that they have a circuitry inside that I designed that listens for a specific note on a keyboard. And each one of these characters is tuned to a different octave on a keyboard. So for instance, the character Winston right here is tuned to a C4, which would control his head going left, and a C5 would, a C sharp 4 would control his head going left, and so forth. The circuitry is all embedded inside them. I'm going to show you the hangman here. He's essentially a foam latex hangman, and he's on a roller wheel there where he's hanging, and there's some guide tubes here so that he doesn't get too wobbly, and it goes down to a motor from a garage door opener with an offset pulley, and as that spins it pulls the rope up and down over and over again, and the whole thing is set with a counterweight, a stone, and then there's a separate light which comes on. So all of these characters are audio-animatronic, like I said, for the Winston character. For instance, the main character Scully here, behind him there's an electronic box that has the circuitry that will actually listen to the notes that he responds to. There's an audio cable, as you can see on the ground here. There's audio cables running, and they all go to where the controller is, which is under this tarp right here, and that's where I've got a filter box which filters all the different notes that are on the keyboard scale, and every one of the character has a different response to a different set of notes. This is the demonic spirit, and there's a smoke machine here and a computer fan, and that sends smoke to the mouth and eyes. There is a light inside here for the eyes, and then there's a laser that scans right here and shoots out also, which looks kind of neat. The Raven is another character that works with control tones, and there's a flapping mechanism inside here that flaps the wings, and the head turns left to right, and the jaw moves under control also. And of course the strobes are here, and the strobes have their own circuitry also that listens for a specific note, and that's what turns the strobes on. A lot of the characters have servos, and a lot of them use pneumatic cylinders, like Vampire right here uses a pneumatic cylinder to raise and lower her arms, and to lift her up vertically there is actually an induction motor, same one that was used on the Ghost, and there's a cable and there's a counterweight right here, and that cable essentially winds up and it raises the Vampire character, and then the flapping is happening from a pneumatic cylinder, and all of the pneumatics are controlled on the Rip character. In the back of Rip there's a circuit board that has the electronics that listens for the particular tone, and what it does, it fires pneumatic relays which then let the pressure go to the pneumatic cylinders to move the various characters. For instance, when Rip opens up here, this is a pneumatic cylinder that's actually opening him up. His head is a servo that's just rotating. There's a light in there, so you can see on the left there, you can see the pneumatic cylinder, which is under the control of those tones, opening and closing Rip. And the same goes to Mort. Mort has a huge pneumatic cylinder which actually lifts him vertical like that. He's very heavy, but it's a huge pneumatic cylinder. Then there's a pneumatic cylinder here that actually causes him to grab and reach. And again, those are under control with the electronics inside the Rip character right here. There's electronics that control all the pneumatic cylinders. So it's a combination of pneumatic cylinders under controls of the keyboards of the octaves of a keyboard, and servo systems under the control of the same thing. The servo systems are used for things that generally weigh up to 1.5 pounds or so, And pneumatics are for things that are much heavier that I want to be able to move.